Hello everyone, today I'm working on this SD-9. It's one of the newer units where instead of having the couplers coming out of the trucks, the couplers are set in the pilot beam, so that looks much better. It's in really good shape, it just needs a little cleaning and some painting. So we're going to paint this for Pennsylvania. So before I paint it, I'm going to want to remove the cab windows and also the number boards in the front and in the back. And I removed the couplers and the handrails. So to remove the shell, I just use the box. And that is pretty easy. It's easy and it works. I don't know why the back is so stubborn. There we go. And this is a DCC compatible unit. Nice. I don't know if you can see, but there's a little bit of water damage on the motor there. You can see it's been inside the water. So I think I'm going to be able to save it. I put power with it on my test leads and it turns. This is a testimony to how good these engines are. So definitely it's going to need a lot of cleaning. So now I've got to take the shell apart. Be careful with these little handrails. If they get stuck somewhere, they could break. It's kind of a shame. It's a very nice model. And it looks to be, everything looks to be in good shape. And then these two little tabs, they hold down the walkways to the frame. And also the cab windows actually help also. The cab windows. Let me just put a little pressure on it and I'll play with the cab windows. So I put just a little bit of pressure and I play with the cab windows until they come out. However long that takes, when they come out you'll know. So you have to look at the handrails at the same time as you're doing this. So I just felt my cab windows release. Now I've got my cab and then the bottom's going to just slide out. Now if you were going to paint this another color, you could leave the horns there. I'm going to paint it black so the horns can go. And don't forget about the light, the two little light boards and the number boards. That's gotta come out now. So let me keep working on that off camera. So then to remove the handrails, I just pry under the last step under here. They come out nice and easy. Now I've got easy access to my couplers. So all I gotta do is remove the screw and they'll come right out. And then the best way I found not to lose my parts is to keep them in the little box. And then that way when I'm ready to put it back together, it's going to be easy to find my stuff. And then I have to remember to remove these windows here. So these I'll just put a little pressure with my thumb and push the window out. They should come right out. Here we go. And then the other side. And then I like to reassemble everything for when I paint it. We're almost there. Now I'm gonna clean this with my paintbrush, with my toothbrush, and some dish soap, and then we're ready for painting. So my shell came back from the paint shop, very shiny. So now I'm ready to put on my decals. I've chosen Pen Central 6909, and the decals I'm using is my micro scale, and this is the set I'm using. So I cut out all my decals already, and now I'm going to be putting them with some water. So once you get started, it goes pretty quick actually. So I like to move them around with my toothpick. I find that that's what works best. So I'm going to keep working on this off camera. Until I'm happy with the result. Most times I don't feel I need to use microsol, but today I feel I need a little bit. So now that my decals are installed, I can go ahead and do my dull coat. So while my paint is drying, I'm going to take care of my drive system. So this little guy is the DCC compatible frame, which is kind of neat. You just have to change out the circuit board, and then that's it. So I'm going to be removing the 2 screws. This will release my 2 trucks, and I'm going to take note of the order which they're in, because I want to put them back the same way. And then I'm just going to spread them out a little bit, and that will release them like that. And the other one like this. And then I can spread out the 2 frame halves. This will release my engine cradle and the circuit board. Actually, the circuit board's pretty much ready to go now. I'm going to push the tabs here. This will release the English engine cradle, and that will allow me in there. And I got my circuit board here, which I can remove now. The contact strips, they may come out, or they may just stay there. That's fine. I just clean them by running my finger. And keep track of these insulators here. You do need them when you put everything back. It looks like there was a lot of lubrication from the factory, so that's okay. Probably protected it well, because it looks like it's got water damage. So all this extra lube there lubricated, kept the water from damaging the engine. So I'm going to lubricate the motor on this one. So I'm going to start by removing the worm gears. These look okay, look factory fresh actually. But I'm going to re-lubricate them just in case. But the motor, I'll work at it. Whatever you do, never use steel wool on your motor, because steel wool has small, fine steel mesh, steel wire, and that will get drawn into the motor by the magnets. So whatever you do, stay away from that. If it ever happens to you, it's a mess. It's very hard to get them out. So the motor still turns. It feels pretty good. So I'm gonna remove the engine cradle here. Just push it out. And that's it. That's all you had to do. And then I'll take a better look at the motor. So the best you can do here is basically clean it with your rag, because you can't get anything abrasive on there. Even sandpaper I would stay away from. And then whatever you get left with, that's what you have to live with. I mean, even if it doesn't look very good, you won't see it when the engine's running. And I'm gonna re-lubricate it. So what I do is I get my Label 108 here, and then I'll just put a little bit on the outside of the bearing. I'll just put a little bit here. This is why the engine cradle has to be out. And then I'll just rotate it, but move it back and forth. There's a little play here that allows your lube to get in there. And then the other side, I do the same thing. I get my needle in there, and then I make sure to play with it a little bit to let the oil just run in there. And then I try it with some power. So it doesn't look very good, but it's gonna run fine. That's awesome. So as you put the motor back together, be mindful of the order it was in before you take it apart. This is the way it was before. It had the white stripe here on that side. If you put it back like this, the engine will run, but it will run the opposite direction that it was meant to. So before I place it back 100%, I'm going to lubricate my worm gears, and these they seem to be okay, unmolested. So all they need is one drop, and that's it. And I'll do the same for the other worm gear, and then I place them back in there. I take my time to make sure everything's good. And then I also test it out as it goes back in. I'll test it out to make sure that everything's turning like it should. And then I'll just do the other side. Now I can bring the other frame half over here. And don't forget that you need your circuit board on the top. So I just need to loosen this up and bring the circuit board to the top of it. There. While I'm doing that, I have to be careful that these two pins are touching the two pins from the motor are touching the circuit board. That you definitely need that to have the engine running. So that looks good. I'll bring the other half in. Now my insulator's out of the way. That's my screw that's out of the way. These insulators, you need them, so it's worth taking the time to manage them carefully. So here we go. That sounds pretty good. I'm just gonna start the screws. I don't tighten them because it'll give me enough slacks to put my trucks back in. So I just need to wipe the contact strips. That should be fine. And then we can focus on the trucks. So these, I just put my screwdriver on the side there. They come out nice and easy. This is one of the little bit more modern ones, which they took the time to paint the side frames black. Looks like this guy was run just a little bit. It's got like a tiny little bit of dirt in there, but nothing too scary. So I'll keep working on this off camera. So it seems to have a tiny little amount of dirt, so I guess it was run. But nothing major, nothing, a little wash with the toothbrush. And some dish soap can't help. Seems to have a little bit of dirt in here too, but nothing major. Pretty happy with that. Of course, now I'm gonna clean my wheels with my rag, and that makes me feel like I got the maximum of cleanliness possible. Yeah, very nice. Now that everything's clean, I can put it back together. The wheels are interchangeable. They're all exactly the same. And then the little side frame contact strips. Just make sure you have each bearing in its cap where it should go. Then the other side of that. And then I test them with my fingers every step of the way to make sure that everything's the way I want it. So that looks good. I always test it. And if I'm happy, if I'm not happy, I check to see what's wrong. But this feels pretty good. And then I can put my side frames. And the side frames, they'll snap into place. And then I check it again, just to make sure. So now I can put everything back together. As you put your trucks in, make sure that your contact strips are lined up properly. If they're not, then you have to redo it until you got it right, because your locomotive will not run without the contact strips. See this one here? It's all wrong. So I'm gonna play with it off camera till everything's perfect. Now I can tighten the two screws. They don't have to be very tight, just hand tight. And your gas tank will hold the contact strips in their place. So before you put it on, make sure that everything's perfect. There's a little notch here for the air tanks, so your air tanks go towards that notch. And now I should go try this on the track. I know if you remember your GP7, GP9s, the air tanks go towards the back, but the SD7s, SD9s, the air tanks go toward the front. So it runs beautifully. That's really good news. So with the dull coat, it looks very professional. All that's left to do is put the windows back in, and also the headlights with the number boards. So while I have just the seal in my hands, it's a lot easier to get in there and put my couplers in. And I'll just take the little screw and install it back in here. This is the easiest way to do this. So now with everything put back together, my horns, my couplers, I can put the shell back on my drive. That should go in all nice and easy. And now it's time to run some trains. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly had fun making it for you. See you soon.